Everybody, it's Obey the Pie back at you again with another YouTube video. So this YouTube video is going to be a tier list. We're gonna make this try to make it short and sweet because there's definitely a lot of heroes in Pred now. And let's get straight overall to it. So a little bit late on the overall tier list. You know, we've had I think almost 2 weeks to test it out now, right? On the 20th, yeah. So almost 2 weeks, but give us a little bit more information. Get to see a lot of interesting builds nowadays too. So first on the list we got is Aurora. Now Aurora is still a really strong character. I noticed that she has been dominating a lot in lower elo. And once again, this type of tier list is for carrying out of ranked into getting into plat 1 and all that stuff, right? So this is going to be the best of the best characters in high elo and the best of the best characters in low elo. It's going to favor more towards bias towards the lower elo, right? Because that's of course where a lot of you guys are coming from, right? You guys want to climb up. So I'm going to try and say that, you know, these are if you're going to one trick these characters, if you really want to put a lot of time into learning these characters are going to be extremely dominant currently in version 1.0 to climb at a rank. So we got Aurora, extremely strong character. You know, she's pretty tanky herself. We got basically a tank buff overall in version 1.0. She has a ton of percent HP damage. She's really strong. A lot of gap close. Pretty safe to lane with. You know, CC is king, and I mean, honestly, I'm gonna have to put her into the A and S tier. I have not seen her that much. I'm gonna bias her to S tier because she is so dominant in the lower elo games that I've been witnessing. She is still really strong. There's just some little trade-offs that happen when it comes to the high level play that you don't see her because there's just better characters in those roles than her. But she's still very strong, very versatile. She can take up 2 lanes, even can play support, so technically 3 lanes. You know, she's just a phenomenal character to have. You know, even if you're not an off-lane player or jungler, she still brings a lot as a casual player in a way. She's just, you know, if I have to autofill, I can pick her easily, sustain really well, and then help my team out when it comes into late game, right? Now Countess. Now I've actually been playing Countess a lot, and she actually feels pretty good. She still gets a little beat up, you know, when it comes to like the level of CC and stuff. But you gotta take your battles, you know, where they are. Early game, she still gets beat up, you know. But I'm still gonna take her and put her into the B tier. I think she was in C tier before. She stepped up, and I think she has a lot of damage, really good sustain, tough early game wave management, all that. But she can honestly really cook in the late game, especially when you get into one tricking her and understanding how she plays and all that. Next we got is Crunch. Now Crunch outputs a ton of damage, but the thing is, he's gonna be kind of the same category when it comes to Grux and all that. He just he kind of falls short in terms of, you know, a lot of the times with Crunch, there's better characters than him available now, is why I'm putting him lower. But you kind of overextend a lot with him, is what I see a lot of people do. One form of CC, getting one tainted on him, he's not gonna really be able to do much. He kind of falls off. I just feel like when I see people play him at lower levels and all that, he doesn't sustain himself properly. He doesn't play properly. He doesn't, you know, position himself or understand what the team is in a way. So I kind of say like there's just better characters than Crunch currently. I'm gonna have to put him into the C list. He does a lot of damage though, and if you do one trick him and you learn about the positioning, you can definitely, you know, solo carry with him. But there's just better characters that do better than him right now. Decker, still a phenomenal support with the nerfs. It really hasn't changed much. She's a S tier. You got to pick her on support when she's available. You know, that's kind of it. And it's the same with Drongo. Drongo really hasn't changed that much. I wouldn't say he's in the overpowered kit. I think all carries are in a really good state right now. So I'm not going to really put him in S tier, but he's a really strong carry. One of the best that you have to pick from. You know, so I would definitely look at recommending him, you know, to be picked if you're a new carry, an old carry. Just very versatile. Has everything in his kit that you need. Next we got is Argus. Now Argus, ton of DPS. Insane clear. Has a stun. I mean, he's just a broken character right now. You know, abuse him when you can in mid lane if you want to climb up. I don't personally enjoy finding him that fun to play, so I kind of try to avoid him. But if you want to climb up, he is the character that you want to play in mid lane if you want to play as support. Very strong character. Now, Fang Ma, this character is an absolute demon right now. This guy bursts so much. He can literally execute carries at half HP with his ultimate if he's fed, and you know, fed off of fed off of lane and just starts roaming. He's just busted. You can even see him being played as support, and he works really well because of his passive. Just goes in, does some damage, and then shields out early game as a support. He just does so much damage. And this is why, like I said, you have Crunch who can go in and do this stuff. But Fang Ma does what Crunch does better, I generally do not see Crunch being as tanky as a Fang Ma nowadays, even like barely. So if you can play these all-in characters, Fang Ma is the one that you want to pick. So we got Faye. Now Faye, you guys see me. I'm gonna give Faye A. She's not an S tier because she's not, she doesn't have the escape and all that type of stuff. But she does so much damage. She scales so hard. She's very easy to play. You gotta just watch out for getting ganked. Basically, she doesn't have an escape, right? But that's it. She just does so much. Her build path goes into pen. It goes into HP. It goes into like Mega Cosm for percent HP and stuff like that. Just a phenomenal character that I have to recommend. And the same thing with Gadget. I think people's Gadget nerfs were hard on her ultimate early game, but she still scales really well. She's still really easy to play. I've been playing her off lane even, and just the amount of shred that she has, the amount of damage that she has, zoning. She does a really good job. I have to still give her the A tier, and I slept on Gadget for a while. I still think that she's a phenomenal character right now. So we got Gideon. Now, let me tell you what I feel about Gideon. I think Gideon has honestly fell off. Like, when you have these two mid laners and Argus, I'm going to say he's a B tier right now. And the reason why I say that is his ultimate leaves him open, right? You got a lot of strong gap close characters that are playing right now. A lot of ways to stop him. That he's kind of fallen off even going True Silver. There's just better characters, I feel, than him. I truly think this is the first time we see Gideon below A or S tier. He has fallen off a bit. There's just better characters than him, is why I'm putting him in B tier, The ult nerfs, they slowly, over time have come and kind of closed him down. Countess is a counter to Gideon in a way, right? So it's like these people match up. Now you have fast clear on Gideon, but he's fell off. They're just better mid laners now. So next we got is Greystone, and Greystone is a really strong character still. He's tanky, can build damage, but I do think he's kind of fallen off. Now I'm gonna put him above Crunch because I do think Greystone has more sustain, more tanky. He's more annoying to the carries and whatnot, especially with the tank buffs we got. So I'm going to still put him onto B tier, but he's kind of falling off a tad bit. He's just a very easy character for people that don't know how to offlane, or, for me, basically. So I'm going to put him in B tier. He still cooks up stuff, but there's better characters in him. Next we got is Grimm. Now Grimm does a ton of damage, has that spell shield to block from stuns and all that, is really strong in mid lane even right now, falls off in terms of mid lane when you want like the AoE type of damage and whatnot, but he's a A tier. He's still a really strong carry. You can definitely abuse him. It's a very positioning based thing since he has no escape. The con is you got to be careful when you got like Zaurus and you got Fang Ma. He's not going to be able to really have any type of escapes. He might be able to block some of the damage, but once he's stuck, the man's going to be stuck. So you got to be careful when you have characters that are going to lock him down in a way. But he does a ton of damage. If you can play in position properly with him, I would say that he still is very good as a carry. Now Grux. Now, I've said this many times. A pub stomper, sure, right? A pub stomper, sure. But I think people are starting to learn how to play against him. One form of CC and Tainted shuts him down, similar to Crunch. Just, and I would say don't learn this character, because once you get up into high level, all that time you spent learning this character, you'll get shut down. He's not a good character. I'd avoid him, Next we got is Howitzer. Howitzer is an extremely strong mage right now. Really good poke, pretty good escape, good setup, completely annihilates, the squishies. When you got the Fang Ma and you got the Zaurus, you can knock them up with your E. It provides peel. He provides a lot of utility. So I'm going to put him in A. Now Kira, I haven't seen Kira too much overall, but she's still up with so much damage, not really seeing her on hit build, going more to the crit build, but I'm going to put her in A because she's still an extremely strong character, and she scales really well when it comes to shredding tanks due to her passive. So we're going to throw her in A, just avoid her ultimate. Her ultimate is still trash. I know they buffed it, still trash. It's really not worth it. Next we got is Iggy. Now Iggy is just a pretty safe passive mid laner, still upputs a ton of damage. I would say it's between A and B. He still does a lot, but they're just better mid laners in a way than him. But he still does good for people that don't really know how to play mid lane, and you want to play strictly for like objective control and positioning for your team and placing the turrets down and whatnot. Because he still is a monster. You know, he just does a lot, and the ability to peel with your ultimates. You know, a lot of with these engagers and stuff that we're dealing with right now. You know, he does cook. Next we got is Kari. Now Kari I think has personally kind of fallen off, but it's mainly due to a skill issue set and what your team comp is. You're seeing a lot of the Fang Ma players, you know, and it's just like there's better junglers than a Kari right now, but the good thing about a Kari is that she can assassinate the carry, the squishy target, the mid laner in like a nanosecond, right? You guys seen it in my videos. She is still an absolute beast, but it's just that the tank meta is really strong right now to where like she kind of falls off a tad bit, you know, and especially with Jinx coming in and a deck and Decker, you know, and a lot of the supports just being able to kind of shut her down or should be able to shut her down pretty easily. You know, I'm gonna throw her into the C tier and having just that strong level of skill set. Now Chimera is still just a really strong jungler. His sustain is really good. Having that ultimate is really good. We're able to stun people. He outputs a ton of damage. Getting Basilisk and applying Basilisk stacks onto tanks is really good as well for your carry, so you can do more damage as you should be very strong AD. Now I actually been going more towards like the tank crest and then going like damage based with Overlord and Basilisk, and it's actually done really well where I'm still able to get a lot of damage in and be relatively tanky. So I would say, you know, if you're interested in that, try that out instead of going like straight raw damage, because he's not going to sustain well into late game fights. Is kind of why I went into the tank crest for late game instead, and it's very easy to get that when you're in jungle. Next we got is Kwang. Kwang is phenomenal. Just having the ability to have that long range tether that they can't blink out of and all that, and just his sustain and damage and true damage and just the control that he has is phenomenal. And I mean, like I borderline would put him on S tier. Like I'm like very close. Between S and A tier. If you are a freaking king with fame, like he has good sustain and he has a really easy time clearing waves and all that. So I'm like borderline S and A tier with him, you know? And it's mainly because I'm not an offlaner is why I can't really give him like the pure S tier. I don't see him as much. But I have played him, and when you get that tether, God man, it's absolutely nutty. It's tough for me. I think I might throw him into S tier low key. I think he's just ridiculously strong. So Zaurus, we're throwing him into S tier. His ultimate, wow, he got a longer cooldown. It hasn't changed. He still does a ton of damage. He locks down the carry. He locks down whoever he ults. He's such a strong jungler still. Nothing's really changed from him. So we're going to throw him there. Next we got is Bica. Now Bica is kind of fallen. I tried her. Her clear is terrible. I still don't see her good as a support. I'm going to throw her in a C tier. I still think she's trash. I haven't had an issue with her, you know, in lane, and I've seen people play her and they honestly kind of int unless their team is cooking, but usually it's an int. She's not good right now. Avoid her at all costs. Now Mortgage does a ton of damage, you know, but there's just better overall supporting they're supporting mid laners in a way that provide more. I'm gonna put her in B tier because she is actually really strong against tanks due to how she procs Mega Cosm on her passive so often. You know, and her entire kit goes into building for tanks and all that, right? And shred. So I'm gonna throw her into B tier. She's very annoying, but she falls off due to having no utility whatsoever, basically. Next we got is Murdoch. Now Murdoch has been a really strong carry right now, right? Absolutely shreds, has good clear, has good poke, has a good utility, right? Can escape pretty well, can steal kills or secure kills, you know, and get fed off of that. He's gonna be in the A tier list, you know. The all carries are in a really good spot right now. Next we got is Muriel. Muriel's kind of fallen off, mainly due to not having as much utility with Zinx coming in. I'm still going to put her in B tier because her ability to split push, output a ton of damage, poke, and then her late game scaling with her shield is still really good. So I'm still going to throw her into B tier, but she is kind of fallen off in terms of what you should overall pick. I still think supports are in a good spot. You just have really strong supports right now that if they're not banned, you should 100% pick them. Got Narbash. Narbash, I mean, this guy is still going to be, I would say, the king of low elo supports. Has a nice easy stun to hit. It sustains and gives you HP late game. You know, I'm going to throw him in and throw him into the A tier list, where I would personally prefer him over the Muriel, right? But the only con is that you're just gonna have a melee. You're gonna have a melee support in the beginning, so you gotta play and freeze a lane closer to you. And you know you can't play. You have to count on your jungler if you really want to go in and secure stuff, unless you're playing a very aggressive carry, right? But I am gonna throw him in A because he still heals a lot. You know, while your tanks are tanking, this man's just gonna be able to heal and peel your carry really well. And his ultimate is really strong for when you got Zaurus ults and all that. Um, Alright, next on the list we got his phase. And phase is really strong, but she's kind of fallen off. Just due to, you know, what you're offered from supports. You like her. I mean, I like her. But she's just, you know, there's better supports to kind of pick overall. You're going to pick her if there's a Richter, you know, and you're going to pull out of that. But we're definitely in the damage. We want some damage-based supports or really high utility supports. And she provides that route. That's really good. I would say if you have a Richter, if you have the Rampage and all that stuff, she can set up really good plays for you. But if you do not have that type of setup, you have a lot of assassins, I would avoid picking phase, right? If you have assassin-based team, avoid picking phase. But if you have a very utility-based team, you might actually have some really good setups with her. But there's still better supports to take. Now, Rampage has entered S tier. He like went from low to high. This guy is just an absolute beast. Tank meta has come back with him. Does so much damage. His rock is so easy to hit and it's broken. Literally, I don't understand how it has such a big hitbox and also such a small hitbox. It feels like this thing literally will go through the tiniest like crevices and then hit like the, you know, the smallest character like nothing. So absolutely busted, ton of damage. You need to play this character if you're learning jungle. And he's just an absolute beast. Of course, Tainted. To counter him a bit, definitely you want to get Tainted for him. He heals a lot off of his ult. Now, Revenant has definitely come back in the meta a bit, right? But there's just better carries than him. I can't say that you should pick Revenant. There's better carries. That's all I can say. You know, does a ton of damage, but he's kind of slow when it comes to outputting that damage compared to these characters that can build attack speed, right? So he's going to be on C list. Next we got is Richter. Now Richter is actually ramped up due to the tank list and having all these setups for him. I've seen him a lot in offlane and he's been performing extremely well. I'm going to put him in A. You know, of course you have to be skilled with the hook. So if you can get that hook, you know, done well, you're going to cook. But if you have people like FaZe, when you have people that like Decker that can apply these stuns, then you get the freest hook of your entire life. Or you can just walk in and just ult everybody and you get, you know, they're all stunned and you get a hook right after with a silence. So there's a lot of ways to play Richter where if you're not good with the hook, you can still provide a ton of utility. Now Sarth has been really strong, a lot of damage. I would put her between A and B tier. It's just that her sustain, right? Once she uses her kit, she's kind of free for CC and all that, right? So it's easy to CC her. But in lower elo play, I would say she's going to be an absolute monster. So I'm going to put her in B, but just know that in low level play, she's like the Master Yi of League. You know, I would put her into the A list, you know? It's just overall, she kind of just has that tough time of being really squishy. And then if she doesn't use her kit properly, if the carries, you know, it depends on the support, honestly. The supports right now are really strong. So a little bit tough to have Sarth be on A tier for what I would say the general game, right? But for lower elo, you could definitely play her and play really well with her. Now, Srog is an absolute demon when it comes to farming up and waiting for late game, which in low elo you see a lot along games, but you got to farm up, you got to focus up. You know, he's just an absolute raid boss when it comes to late game. I'm going to throw him into S. For high elo play, he's freaking terrifying. For low elo play, he's honestly terrifying if the game lasts a while and the person is focusing on the farm and rotating to objectives. Because he provides a lot of CC, provides a lot of tankiness, and does an insane amount of damage for what he has. Now, Shinbi, provides nothing. You know, a lot of damage and poke, but there's better characters than her. I have to put her into C list. She needs to be more tankier, if anything, if you really want her to kind of excel. Her damage is really high, but falls off due to having literally zero utility. And then we got Sparrow. Now, Sparrow is good, But I'm gonna put her in B because you got these other carries that just excel better than her currently. They have the escape. They, you know, if you have a phase and whatnot, then the Sparrow cooks. I mean, she does good. It's just that like, I would say like low elo, you could definitely put her into an A because it just seems like people don't know how to prioritize people properly. But like overall, I'm gonna put her into B because there's just better carries than her currently. You know, so that's mainly it. But she does a lot of damage. She's still really good. Now Steel's only con is he doesn't provide a lot of damage, but his utility is insane. If you got a team full of damage, you need to pick this guy for that utility. He just shuts down carries with his shield, has absolute monstrous engage. You know, I'm gonna throw him into A. It's just that you have these better characters that output a ton of damage than him. You know, he's just a strict. He's gonna be a utility based guy. He's not gonna usually win lane. You know, but he's gonna provide a lot when it comes to going for objectives and whatnot. So you have to. He's not gonna be the best split pusher or setting up lanes type of person. But if you have a team that knows about that, and then all you need is that straight up utility, Steel is the CC god. We got Tera next. Now Tera is still an absolute beast. Lower elo, definitely in the S tier. You know, higher elo can kind of get zoned out just a bit now as people are kind of learning her. I'm still probably gonna borderline put her on S because she's just that ultimate that allows her to completely take off CC. And with her being, she's a relatively squishy now, but she is still pretty tanky with the mutilator, you know, and all that. But she's the demon, so you just gotta be careful not to overextend, you know, without your team Tera. But she's an absolute monster, so I'm gonna put her on S tier. Now, I'm going to throw Twin Blast because of his versatility and just his ability to farm very easily and his amount of damage that he does with the resolution, with, you know, going on hit build. I think he's the only S tier carry, mainly because he's able to farm, you know, so easily in a way. He has really good clear, really good farm, a ton of damage output, really strong range. I think he's the only carry that, you know, is going to be above all other carries just by a little bit because he's just an absolute beast. So I am going to throw him into S tier when it comes to, you know, into team fights. This guy, give him peel. He has a ton of utility, a ton of damage, and he can attack from far ranges and apply poke, and has really good farm and clear. So I'm going to throw him up there. Now I've seen Wraith played a bit more, and he does have a ton of damage output, but he doesn't have the utility. That's the con. I've seen him do really well, but then the team falls off because they have no utility, especially when you got Zaurus, Rampage, you know, Srog, Tera in the game, right? Even Aurora and all these guys. Like, he is, you know, I don't want to really see him, is why I would personally put him into C tier. But if you can do good and, you know, do really well with him, he does a lot of damage. He provide, you know, he does a ton of damage. So it's between a B and C. I'm personally going to put him at C tier because I do not like seeing a Wraith on my team. It's just that there's better people than him. I don't see, you know, especially in lower elo where you're really counting on that skill difference, right? So I'm going to put him in the C tier. Next to Zinx, there's nothing else to be said. She's the S tier. Provides damage, provides heals, provides a second life, you know, has the stun. Just an absolute beast. Has a lot of damage. You just gotta, only con is you gotta position properly and put the wards down and know about the jungle tracking, you know, and that's kind of it. Once you got that down, she is an absolute monster in team fights. You know, she's just too strong. You know, so I'm gonna put her in S, and she's the one person that I would say can kind of counter that Decker, right? She's that force that Decker now has to kind of compete with, right? The range support battle, having the stuns, having the kind of sustain if the carry does get caught on all that, right? So I'm gonna put her there. But yeah, this is basically overall my tier list. I don't think there's anything that I would personally change directly looking. I think all characters, personally, I think that it's a pretty annoying meta to play as a mid laner at least. The amount of tanks and, you know, how these guys can gank mid laner so easily, I'm gonna have a ton of bias. So I'm not really enjoying the meta that much currently, but it is a fairly balanced meta. You know, there's a lot kind of to there's a lot kind of going on, you know. Tanks and CC are remaining to be, you know, I would still say tanks were really strong before, but they kind of buffed them a lot more because people were complaining about them. But I think they still existed, and I think Rampage was just overcome by like just how much damage Aurora and Zaurus were kind of doing, you know, and Tera. But I thought Rampage was still pretty decent before, but now they gave him a buff that made him an absolute raid boss. You know, I think overall that right now, the meta is definitely, you know, the tanks that can do a ton of damage and provide CC, and then you need to find ways to eliminate them, right? That's overall the goal. But CC, you want to play for CC, and you want to play for, you want to play a character that provides a lot of sustain, it kind of zones people out so you can target those tanks. So the carry and support can target those tanks while you're kind of zoning them out in a way, and all that. There's the overall meta is in an interesting spot right now. But let me know what you guys think of this tier list. If you guys like the tier list, if you guys hate this tier list, what things would you change? I'd like to hear what you guys think in all elo brackets, right? But yeah, so on that note, good luck in your games, take it easy, have a good one, and I'll see y'all in another video. Peace.